and welcome back to another episode of Courageous Conversations. If you have been following this podcast or the YouTube videos, you might have noticed that we took a break for a while. And that's because somewhere along the lines, I decided to run into a provincial election and run for MHA. Lucky for you, I didn't win, and which means the podcast is back on. But it's a new year, it means a new season and a whole new bunch of guests. And for this year, we're kicking it off with something that's very near and dear to me, Black History Month, which is when these episodes will start rolling out. But this year, I wanted to focus on with the Black History Month the idea of Black joy. For me, Black joy is something that I hold very close to myself. So I reached out to people who I think are interesting and cool and part of the Black community to put them in the hot seat and ask them what does joy mean to them. So I have the pleasure of introducing you to our very first guest. His name is Chukwu Emeka Afibu, and I'm going to let him introduce himself because if I do it, you're not going to get all the story about him. So let him go and then I'll add my tidbit at the end. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chukwu Emeka Afibu, or you could call me Emeka Afibu. Let's see. I am a dad, Nigerian, living in the States, living in California, married with 2 kids. I have been fortunate to build a career in tech all the way back home in Nigeria. I moved to London and now here in California. I work in the Bay Area for a company called Okta in the identity and security space. Yeah, I think if I'm to describe myself beyond like personal life and family and all of that, I would say I am an ecosystem builder at heart. Yeah, that's basically how I describe it.
So that's a professional explanation of who you are. For the
Yeah.
guests, so he's my uncle, and I introduce him to people as like, this is my super cool uncle who works in tech, and I'm really glad is willing to sit and be part of my podcast. So that's how I got this super cool individual sitting on the other side of the screen chatting to us today. So it's some insider connections, and I'm very grateful for them.
Yeah, I'll say it's not every day that, that one gets to be on a podcast with their really cool niece. And I'll just say I'm really, really honored to be here. I felt really special when you reached out to me to be on this podcast, and I'm really, really honored to be here. I don't take it for granted, I guess is what I'm saying. And yeah,
Oh, thank you
it's
so
really
much.
this is
Okay, are you
it
ready
doesn't
for
happen
the
every
hot
day
seat?
for me. So
Okay, buckle in. Are you ready for the hot seat, the hot questions?
woof, let's do it.
Okay, so our focus on today's conversation and most of the conversations that people will be listening to in the month of February is about Black joy. So February is Black History Month. Each year for Black History Month over the last 6 years, I've kind of taken a different approach. So about the topics I wanted to cover, either it was unearthing Black history we didn't know, showing Black people in different kinds of spaces where people don't expect us to be, but we've had an interesting year, both politically, socially, economically. For a lot of people, it's been some are dumpster fire, others would say things they would not have expected. So I wanted to look at 2026 as a year of focusing on joy, and specifically Black joy. So my first question to you is when you think of Black joy, what does it mean for you specifically?
So first I'll start by saying that's a very deep question. I really have to think about that one. When I think about Black joy, or first of all, joy, and really try to drill it down or boil it down to the fundamentals. The one word that kept coming up for me was contentment. Being content, with where I am or who I am or what I've been able to achieve. Because I think that's like the first step, like to be content. And to be content doesn't necessarily mean to settle. It doesn't mean to settle, right? It means acknowledging what you have and what you have achieved and being grateful for that, and then that gratitude gives you the ability to then build on what you have. And so joy for me, first of all, like there has to be contentment. And then I can then build upon that. Black joy, now puts another layer on top of it. As a Black person, an African, an immigrant, I think when you then say Black joy, it then brings in this aspect of community. And so, first of all, being content within myself, like being settled and content and at peace with myself, and then being able to extend that to the people around me, It could be my immediate family, it could be my friends, it could be people on the internet that I relate to, and, you know, extend that feeling of contentment, or invite them into that space, so that we can share in that. I think that's kind of what comes to me when I think of Black Joy.
Yeah. So I'm going to take that idea you started with talking about the idea of contentment for you, how that's the base of Black joy.
Mm.
Has that been something you've always held, or is it something that as you got older kind of became, I'll call it the foundation of what joy means to you, or has joy changed for you over the years as you've aged?
It's definitely changed. It's definitely changed. I think, at different times, we're always aspiring for stuff. At different levels in life, there's things that we define, that we use to define happiness. At some point, it's like, oh, would my parents let me go out and see my friends? That's happening. At some other point, it's, am I going to make grade, at least for me at the time. It was, my grades. At some other point, it was, you're going to land that job, or, what does the future hold for you? Are you going to be able to hold a job and be responsible in that sense? And then at some other point, it's like when family starts getting into the equation, are you going to be able to take care of them? What have I achieved, and things like so. Those are different ways that over time, I've tried to that have kind of defined what contentment meant for me. But at some point, especially when you know how it is that we're at that time of the year, right? New Year resolutions. What are your plans for next year? How are you gonna make it big next year? And so, at some point, when I'll be thinking of like, what does next year look? And I'm trying to define what does success mean at the end of the year. You have this list you're writing by the end of the year, what I've done, this. And then at some point I just realized that what's the point of all this stuff we're trying to do? At the end of the day, it's so that we can be happy at the end of the year, right? And so basically I boiled it down. I'm like, hey, my goal for the end of the year is I want to be
Hey,
right. And I don't know what that means, but when the end of the year comes, I just want to be in a happy state. You know. Yes, there are things I want to do. I want to get this, I want to do this, I want to, whatever it is. But like the saying goes, like, how do they say it again? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think that
true.
was Mike Tyson, right? Or something. And if there's one thing you're gonna get guaranteed of, like you're gonna get punched in the face in the new year. Like that will always happen. It's not a question of how you're able to adapt and react and,
Yeah,
balance yourself
bob and
and move,
weave.
right? So whatever plans we're making right now, it's gonna change. The year is gonna throw up different stuff. So walking into the year or walking into life generally with that assumption, basically helped me or is helping me realize that, you know what, at the end of the day, life is going to throw stuff at me. I'm going to need to figure it out, but I just want to end the year happy, you know. And so that's where this whole contentment thing now comes in. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I really like that, and I think I might take the everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Maybe because of the Anthony Joshua and the Jake Paul situation, and we all had plans until someone got punched in the face, but that might be the new model for me. So so the idea of joy has changed for you over the years because when you're younger, it was the things that we all think, oh, I want this, I want that, I want to be this. But then as real life happens,
Mhm.
our view changes, reality shows up and shows us a thing or two. So when reality does show up and you do get your punch in the face or you get the rug pulled out from under you, like how do you hold on to joy when it's hard? Like for people, debt's piling up. Others, you don't know what you're going to be doing tomorrow or next week. It gets hard for people. So how do you find hold on to joy then?
Yeah. I mean, So it's hard for me to answer that question without going a little bit into spirituality or philosophy.
You are absolutely allowed to go into spirituality and philosophy. The ground
Yeah.
is
So so, at the end of the day, yeah, my spirituality is a huge part of it, right? I follow a religious teaching called Ekanka, right? And one of the key tenets of that is that, we are creative, we're soul. And as soul, you are a creative person and a survivor, right? All you have to do, it sounds simple, but it's not, is find ways to, I guess, connect to the divine part of yourself, right? And one of the ways to do that is through something called contemplation. It's kind of like meditation, but, it's contemplation. You basically sit in a quiet place and, you visualize, you put yourself in a happy space, like you visualize a happy moment in your life. And, you try and connect to that divine part of yourself. And making time to do that once a day, at least for about 20 minutes, is a very huge, what's the word? Centering, like, is a way to center myself in the moment. And knowing that no matter what happens, that I have the ability to handle it because as soul, I'm a creative being and I'm a survivor. That's a huge part of it, right? So practically, so I've told you like what I do, but practically, yeah, in the moment, also knowing that everybody else is soul as well. I think that's a huge part of it also. And so when people do things that are not, that are not according to plan, piss you off, whatever it is, in that moment, trying to recognize that that person is also soul and they are doing the best they can with what they have, to get, everybody's trying to get ahead in life, but in doing so, we bump up against each other and causes all this friction and, stress and stuff. But everybody's trying their best, and being able to recognize that in that moment is also a huge deal. But yeah, I'll say if I boil it down, if I boil your question down, it is recognizing that at the end of the day, I'm blessed with everything I need to handle whatever situation comes up. It's just a matter of figuring it out.
I like that. I think like for a lot of people, the idea of joy is momentary. So it's like, oh, things are going great. I can be happy now. And then what happens when things aren't going great? How do you maintain that like contentment? Not excited, not celebrating, but I am content. And it's like I think my friends and I always have this saying like I have survived my worst battles. So
Hmm.
like my track record is looking hella good regardless of what happens. So
Yeah,
if I've gone through the worst of the things,
yeah,
this is just another thing to get through and kind of thing. So and like people ask me, how's your day? I'm like, I'm on the right side of the dirt. Okay.
yeah,
I've made it
yeah,
to the right side of
exactly.
the dirt today. It's gonna be fine. Whatever happens, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And if not,
Yeah,
then it's not over kind of thing.
someone said, yeah, every day above ground is a good day, right?
It is a good day. Those are the lyrics for life.
It's
Every
a
day
good,
above ground is a good day.
yeah.
I agree with
And,
that.
just to say, it doesn't mean, when you hear me say this, uh, you could be mistaken. You could make the mistake of thinking that, oh, it means that whatever happens to Emeka is always no, right? It is normal to cry or be upset or whatever. Like again, you get punched in the mouth, right? By
Even
life and stuff happens. I think the key thing is not staying there, right? Being able to find a way to get out of that feeling, right? That situation. Yeah. Because I mean, no matter how bad we think our situation is, there's people who have been or are going through worse. And, you know, many of them find a way to pull through it. So that proves that there is a way to pull through. And if you know that there's a way out, there's always a way out. You know, always a way out.
so knowing that there's always a way out and like which means there's always a chance to find joy, to find contentment regardless of what's going on. Why would you say joy matters to us as people, to souls, but to the general Black community, what is important in joy that we need to hold on to it for ourselves?
I think by nature, we are joyful beings. Like think of a baby that was born, right? Or a child, like look at small children, right? Which is probably like the closest, the purest expression of, humanity you can think of, right? Children are joyful. Even if a kid falls and scrapes their knee or, gets into an argument with one of their friends or whatever, they shout, they yell, somebody's crying and all of that. Within 5 minutes, the same two kids are running around, laughing and playing, And so that tells you that by nature we are joyful, right? Like we're joyful beings. It's just that life then happens to us, and then you know, we adulting and all that stuff weighs down on us. But yeah, so it's about getting back to that more or less pure state of who we are, right? And so yes, it is important because then what is the other option, right?
What I think.
What is the other option? There is like the million and one reasons to be unhappy. You don't need to look too far like if you want to be unhappy, there's a million and one things you could, yeah, there's a million and one reasons, but that's not a good place to be. Uh, yeah, so it is important for survival, like it's that important for survival. Yeah.
I want to touch on the kids for a second because you're a dad of two, and I'm a mom of one, and sometimes have 2 to 7 that run through my house. When you think of joy and our future generations and the current generations that are younger,
Mm.
how do you ensure that you share the idea of joy with them? Or do you feel like they're sharing it with you?
Yeah, I actually think more recently they're the ones sharing it with me. Yeah, but I think it's important. So a few things, a few practical things. Like I think, you know, family and friends are key. Making sure that the children are in touch with people who make them feel loved and appreciated. Right. I think is really important. Yeah, the whole idea of family is key as well. One thing we did this summer is that we were fortunate to be able to get time to travel back home to Nigeria. Went with the whole family, and it was a very interesting experience. Again, you know, traveling to Nigeria with your whole family is an extreme sport on itself.
Say you're strong. You're a strong one. And I'm not there yet, but you're strong.
It's an extreme sport, but it was great, because they were able to share the joy with, their family and cousins and all that, some of whom they'd never met before, so yeah, it's important. So making sure that they are connected with, like family and friends, or there's this community basically around them, I think is one of the big things. Of course, making sure that within the home itself, we are reflecting that. And I'll say you asked, are they the ones sharing it with me? Definitely. So I have two boys, one 11 and the other 5. So there's a gap. But it's always so refreshing when you see the bond that they have, right? Even obviously they fight a number of times. But
Friends do.
yeah, so it's interesting to see how the older one, because of that gap, is a sizable gap. The older one brings out the the adult in the younger one, and the younger one brings out the kid in the older one, and that's just a joy to watch. And just spending time with them is just refreshing in that way.
Say I agree with you in the one of the things I tell people is when I'm doing presentations, I introduce myself and I was like, oh, I have a son that tests my gangster on the daily. But in the testing my gangster on the daily that he does over this past holiday season, there's this thing called the elf on a shelf. Like, if anyone knows me and is listening to this podcast, they know how I did not want that thing in my home. I was not a
Yeah.
fan. I'm still trying to find fandom for this thing, but watching my son light up each morning to be like,
Mm.
where is this elf now? Where
Mm.
has he gone? What is he doing? And I was like, it's trying to find that Christmas holiday spirit again. And I was like, that's the joy that I want. And like he constantly shows me joy, even on days when I was like, I don't want to do this
Yeah.
anymore. I'm tired. He'll come up and then he'll just look at you and be like, I love you. You're a good mom. And I was like, you know what? It's done.
The day, it's a good day. Or
It's a good day. Like he wakes up and he's just like, it's a good day. And I was like, but it's for them. It's
yeah, yeah.
a good day. So
And
yeah, no,
yeah, like to that point, I already said that, it's all about contentment, and that comes from inside. Like, make no mistake about it, that comes from inside. But the people we surround ourselves with also plays a huge, huge role, So family, kids, friends, even, and not just surrounding ourselves with physically, virtually as well, like the
what's your
internet,
algorithm
social
looking like?
media. I'll tell you like one quick hack. If you find yourself really agitated lately, take a look at your social media feed.
I feel like you're calling me out, and I'm just gonna take that personally.
No, for real. And I'm saying it even for myself, Um, yeah, like, take a look at the social media feed and WhatsApp groups or whatever chat group, whatever chat app you use, the groups you're in and stuff like that. And the news you watch and stuff like those are, there's nothing wrong with those things in of themselves, like social media or, watching news or whatever. Yeah. Our digital diet, so to speak, plays a huge role, more than we give it credit, to whatever state of joy or lack of joy we
We're
are,
dealing with.
so that was one thing that I found in my life. And the other aspect is in terms of people or things I surround myself with. I think everybody deserves to have somebody, a group of people around you that you can really laugh with. Like, the kind of laughter, like,
When you don't see yourself laughing.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And those people, they don't need to be physically there. It could be a WhatsApp group you're in, or, like, you deserve to have a group of people like that, or a person or whatever, that once in a while, maybe every month or something, you can actually share that laugh.
All right. We're getting down to again 2 more questions. So
Okay.
like, you ready?
Yeah. Let's do it.
So when you think of that idea of the people you're around and the digital diet of
Mm,
all that, those are the things that kind of feed into your joy.
mhm.
How do you go about spreading joy? Is it something you intentionally focus on putting out there? Or is it something that you have just found in your existence? People seem to think you bring joy into a space.
Mm. I know you have to ask them.
Well, the one that I know, you're bringing joy in anyway, Uncle. So like you're doing fun, but is it something you're doing intentionally
Yeah.
or
No, so intentionally, I think I said at the beginning of the conversation that professionally and even semi-professionally, if you will, I am an ecosystem builder, right? So I may not necessarily be the most like outwardly outgoing, person and all of that, not necessarily the life of the party kind of person. But one thing I enjoy doing when I can is creating spaces for people to connect, right? And yeah, so whenever I have that opportunity, I do that. So there is an initiative I have with a friend of mine, Dr. Folarin, here in the Bay Area. We host this thing called Jollof Tech, right? It's
seeing
basically, yeah, it's just a space we create for, Black people, Afrocentric people, to come and have conversations about different things. And it's not like it's everybody's welcome, mind you, like regardless of your background, race, or whatever. But the agenda of the conversation is about issues that affect, Black people. That's what the agenda is. And we have some food, as the name implies, and we
as
just
you
have
share.
conversation. Sometimes you have a guest speaker or not, or whatever. And for me, the biggest thing there is that sometimes you find that, yeah, sometimes people just need a space to come and hang out and have a conversation, have good food, enjoy community. Especially here in the Bay Area where things are a bit spread out and everybody's busy. So creating that space is great. I'm also involved in a few other community oriented initiatives here and there. But yeah, anything that brings people together in a way that they leave feeling like, okay, I'm a better version of myself than when I went in. I try to, as much as time permits, be involved in things like
I have seen your jollof tech thing that I've been very jealous every time I see that. And I was like, it's not happening in Newfoundland, but it's fine. I could also
maybe
use a
when I
pot of
come to
jollof.
Newfoundland, we'll do
We're
one.
waiting. The invitation is out there. We have a booming tech ecosystem. You're more than welcome to join. We would be glad to have you, honestly, because I'd be personally glad. But that is on our 2026 to do joy finding bucket list.
All good.
So the very last question,
Mm,
well, it's a two-parter I have
mm,
for you is one of the things I like to do, not just with this podcast, but when I'm doing like out of the fog or talking to people is if I could get them to speak to younger them. They get a
mm,
chance to look back in the mirror, portal, whatever you want to do. You get a chance to talk to younger you. So you're getting a chance to talk to younger you
mm,
about joy.
mm.
What message would you want him to know
Wow.
when it comes to joy?
Need to think about that one a bit. When it comes to joy, I think I would say I've thought about this before actually.
Hey,
I think I'll say at the end of the day, I'll say it's gonna be fine. That's what I'll say to younger me. I'll say, you know, it's gonna be fine. Keep doing what you're doing. Take time to enjoy life, like to have more experiences. Yeah, have more experiences. And the reason I say that is I've had ups and downs, right? But those downs, like the reason the ups happen is because of the downs, right? So I can't say I wish those downs didn't happen because then a lot of the ups wouldn't have happened. I'll give an example. Trying to think of which there's so many. So when I finished college and got my first job, I was actually supposed to come to Canada to do my master's degree. Yeah. Right. And I got denied a visa. I couldn't get a visa. Yeah. I couldn't get a visa. Like, and it wasn't for lack of I don't know. I couldn't get a visa. I tried like 4 times. I tried like 4 times. I think I even tried to apply in a different country to see maybe that would change things. So it wasn't for lack of trying. And at some point I was like, you know what? Maybe this isn't meant to happen. I'll go focus on something else. But the experiences I went through after that, right? Both in terms of the job I had and so on. By the way, I ended up doing a master's in the same school at Carleton because they reached out to me to say, hey, we remember you tried to come, but you couldn't. No, the school came back to say, hey, yeah, we're opening an online version of this course. And we want you to be on the first pioneer class of the thing, right? And so that was how I ended up getting my master's at Carleton University without going to Carleton in person, right? But so experiences like that and a bunch of other experiences ended up leading me to a situation where I ended up working in the biggest and the best tech companies in the world. And now I live in California. And so would that have happened if, like, how would life have played out if things had gone, I can't guarantee that it would have played out the same or better or worse or not, right? And so, yeah, I'll just tell my younger self, just keep grinding, keep doing what you're doing, but just know that everything is going to turn out fine. And so take time to get more experiences in life. That would lead to more joy.
okay. So the very last question. So
All
we've
right.
talked about how spirituality helps you find joy and the practices of like imagining yourself in those places and like visualizing yourself in those places. What other practice do you do on the daily to help ground yourself in a place of joy or that you share with people when you're out in the world?
Um, I mean, there are a few of them. Recently, I started taking more interest in my physical health,
Not like
my physical well-being. So I try to do some workout every day. Like, I've never really been like a workout gym exercise person. And so I made peace with myself that any workout that was more than 30 minutes is not for me. Right?
it's not for you.
It's not for me. If it's more than 30 minutes. So I make sure I dedicate, or I try to dedicate 30 minutes to some form of
Okay.
physical exertion, right? And so far it has worked, because it's not about how much, it's about the consistency, as I've learned. And so, balancing that mental, emotional, spiritual well being with physical well being, I think is important. Um, Another practice, I guess, is yeah, trying to make time with, spend time with family, even though it gets harder with work pressure, especially with this work from home thing. It's it's
Double edged.
it's a double-edged thing, right? But making out that time actually to be there with family is awesome.
Okay. I think the last question, well, I agree with you on the physical activity one. I hate the gym. I'm not going to say I enjoy it, but there is this thing at our gym recently called a cryo chair. And
Okay.
so with the cryo chair, it's supposed to mimic cold dips. Have you heard of those where people go and plunge themselves into like ice baths
Oh, yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
frozen water? Yeah,
Mm,
I hate the cold. It's just
yeah.
it's a fact, well approved. But I've managed to do the full 15 minutes in the cryo chair with like a majority of the body parts cold.
Wow.
And
So
I
it's like
have
this
like,
ice
after
bath
it, I'm a
kind of thing.
happier person. Yeah, so it's a
Oh,
chair, you just sit in it. But I'm a happier person on the days that I do the cryo chair. Now, do I know why? No. But apparently cold resets your nervous system and helps you like balance yourself. So
wow.
I can agree. So some people do physical exertion. I am sitting in a cryo chair a
I'll
couple
try
times
it.
a week,
I'll
and
try.
I am a better
Let's check
person
it out.
for it. But I wanted to thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're busy and with wife and kids and all the things you do. I really appreciate you taking the time out. And now people get to see my super cool uncle and learn a little bit about Black Joy, how it's brought into communities, and how people can find parts of it for themselves. So thank you for taking the time for having a courageous conversation. And I wish you a continued year of contentment, of new experiences, and more joy.
No, thank you for having me again. Like this is really special for me, like I said. And I'm not not kidding. Yeah. Thanks so much. This one was special. Thank you.